G'day guys, it's Alex, Victor Kilo 2, Papa Radio Charlie here, and this is my new acquisition. I bought this on eBay the other day. It came up on ebay.com, and it's a radio that I've been looking for a long time. I've got plenty of these 320s, but this particular one is an RT320L, lower sideband only radio. And look, I got it for quite a reasonable price, to tell you the truth. I was surprised, and I've always wanted one of these, and they've always evaded me. But this one here has a missing reflector meter. But looking at it cosmetically, it's in beautiful condition, to tell you the truth. There's not a scratch on the nameplate. All the fins are very, very straight. Just a couple of little scratches. The only big thing that it's got happening to it is the connector at the back, the dog bone. It's smashed. It's a write off that. It'll have to be replaced with something else, or I may even have another one. I'm not sure, but yeah, it'll be a very, very interesting exercise to pull this apart now, have a look at the internals and see what sort of radio it is like inside, and then have a good look around the set before powering it up. As far as the missing meter's concerned, I actually have a spare, so I'll be able to put that on at the same time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to strip it down and have a look. Okay, just pulled the radio apart. I'm very, very surprised on the condition inside. It's absolutely immaculate. It looks almost new. Just a bit of a background here. The RT320L, I believe, was made under license by Plessy Avionics to the former Yugoslavia, I think. It's different than the RT320i or 321, which I believe is both upper and lower sideband, and they were made in limited numbers. But these ones, the 320L, are specifically lower sideband and were made, as I say, under license. Not a common radio, but there you go. I'll just give you a bit of a look inside. Yeah, just looking inside the radio, I can't really see any evidence that it's been worked on before. So it looks in very, very good condition. It doesn't have any scratches or marks on it or anything at all, which I'm quite surprised for the little bit of money that I spent on this thing. But looking at the wire there that's been cut off, they've removed the reflector meter, and it looks like it's been simply snipped off. That wire hasn't been desoldered. It's been actually just cut off. So yeah, looking at the back section, I'm not really seeing any evidence here of any major works that have been carried out. Looking at all the little screws, they all seem to have the washers underneath them, which is good. The radio, when I pulled it apart, was already in the lowest frequency position. Had a couple of screws missing out of it, so I'd say that it was being pulled apart and then put back together, and either they didn't have any screws or they took a couple of screws out of this radio here to put in another. So I'm sort of hoping that this radio was a sacrificial radio. Take out the reflector meter, take out a couple of screws, and get another radio going. Don't know at this stage, but there you go. But looking inside of it, like I say, inside of the shell, it's all immaculate. It just looks like it's absolutely brand new. Because I've pulled apart some pretty beat up ones in my time, and this is amazingly in good condition. So moving right along, we'll have a bit of a look at replacing this meter here, and then have a bit of a look at the power supply, and yeah, we may put some power on it and see how it goes. Right, just replaced the meter with the spare that I had. Yeah, just looking down there, I don't know if you can see it or not, I had to extend a couple of wires. Or I should say extend one. The other one had been completely removed, and connected that back together. Look, I'm looking around the radio, especially at the filters, just looking at some dates and some numbers. I'm sort of seeing lots and lots of mentions of 1976, and I'm seeing 76 over here again. So I'm thinking that this radio is probably, you know, around about a 1976, or even, yeah, as close to that vintage radio. And all I can say is This thing must have been sitting on the shelf for a very long time somewhere and not be used to be in such good physical condition. But look, when I pulled the radio apart, I undid the screws on the front and the back, and the radio actually sprang apart, and that's very unusual. Shouldn't do that, shouldn't be any pressure. So I was a little bit concerned that it wasn't lined up by the little line-up key between the tuner and the filter at the back, but no, that was okay. But on closer inspection, I'm looking here, and I'm seeing damage to the D plug on the 2 section of the radio here. That's been damaged, and I would say that it's been just pressed together and screwed up with the screws. And this plug here wasn't even in. So I'm gonna repair that damage to that so it fits back snugly with the female section of the same D plug. And when I put the radio back together, hopefully that'll mate correctly. But even if it doesn't, these D plugs are pretty readily available off the shelf, so I should be able to replace that. So we'll see how we go. Okay, got it all connected up here. Ready to try it out. I've got 20 metre band selected, and I've got 14.2000 megahertz, and I got on sideband, and yeah, let's see what happens when I turn it on. I've got the handset connected up so we can hear that. So here we go. No warm-up tone, just got a hiss, just a hiss. I'm on ANT, connected to a dummy load, nothing. On low power, bit of a torque, 1 2 3 1 2 3, nothing. No clicking of relays inside, nothing. We've virtually got a dead set, except for a bit of audio hiss, and I'm straight away thinking power supply. So that's where we're going next. Okay, I've got my power supply connected up to my my power supply rig, testing rig. You'll see the voltages here, 3, 6, 12 and 110. They're loaded up with the resistors that give it the correct load. The correct load was initially worked out by a chap named Martin many years ago in the UK, who did a lot of work with Clansman radios, and I calculated the load resistors required and installed it, got the battery connected up here. So let's have a look at the voltages that we've got. So 3 volts, 0.2, not good. 6 volts, 5.9, not bad. 12 volts, 12.6, good. 110 volts, 41.7, bad. So we have a problem with our power supply that needs to be resolved. So before I can move on, that's the first thing to get sorted out, power supply. Okay, parts arrived to repair the power supply, and I've done that. The power supply had basically 2 faults. There was a problem with 110 and the 3 volt supply. Both of them, lucky for me, were both the main regulation transistor in both cases. Very, very good. I had a spare 110 transistor from a wrecked power supply, and I didn't have a one for the 3 volt supply, but I found a recommended alternative, which is a ZTX 550. A ZTX 550. These are available on AliExpress, would you believe? Yeah, here are the 2 dead ones here. So yeah, but the only problem is I had to buy 20, I think, but they weren't that expensive. So there you go, easy to get from AliExpress. So let's test the set. Let's test the set. So we'll turn her on. Sounding pretty good. We've got ANT single sideband connected into a 50 ohm load. Very good. Slip it up onto low power. 1 2 3 4. Looking good. High power. 1 2 3. absolutely perfect. I've done a power test on it, and it's putting out about 3 watts in low power and about 30 watts on high power. So chances are we fixed it, which I'm pretty pleased about. So I've got myself an absolute, what I consider quite a rare 320L, which is the lower sideband version, for quite a good price, and with a simple repair. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to slip it back together. I'm going to put 4 bolts in to hold the chassis together. I'm going to take it out to portable and try it on the air, and then I'm going to come back and possibly service the capacitors in the synthesizer and the capacitors in the power supply, just to finish it off, and she'll be as good as new. Okay, having some real problems here. I'm getting the set mated back together again. Put it together, it won't work. You'll recall early on in this video I mentioned that this plug was damaged, and when I pulled the radio apart, it actually, the back sprang open. It had damage to that socket, and obviously it wasn't mated properly. I've had a bit of a close look now, because I've got a mating problem between the back and the front of the radio. And looking very carefully here at the socket on the chassis side, you can see it's been bent. See, that's been bent there. And when I look really carefully at it, I noticed that the actual chassis frame has been bent down as well. It's not straight anymore. It's been bent down on both ends, over here and over here. So this here is still not lining up properly, and for a start, when you put the 2 chassis halves together inside the frame, they're not going, it's not plugging far enough into mate. So I'm going to have to pull this off here and do a little bit of panel beating and straighten up the chassis so that the 2 parts mate properly again. I'll do that, see how we go. Well, that was no 5-minute job. Pulling all this area apart, pulling all these little screws and these little fancy nuts on the back. What a job. Hours later, panel beating's over. So we've got it all back to being as straight as I can see. All of the plug sockets have been taken the banana out of them, so they're all nice and straight again. I must admit again, what a job. But anyway, if you've never worked in this area of the radio, it's a real treat. Okay, so look, I would have to say at this point that this particular problem here on the radio was probably the biggest problem the radio had. And this is caused by not getting the plugs to align and mate when you put the back on. And someone has actually screwed the back on and screwed all of the screws down and absolutely crushed this part of the radio down, and also deformed the D socket. And then from that point on, it was put aside as a dud. I wouldn't be surprised if the power supply, this power supply here that I repaired, was probably not even the original power supply. I'd say that they'd taken that power supply off and used that on another radio and put the dud power supply on this radio. Remember, it also had the reflector meter missing on the radio too. So yeah, I'd say that the biggest problem was the crushing in this area here that made the decision to put this radio aside. So hopefully, now that I've fixed it all up and done my little panel beating job, it'll fit properly back together in the case. So let's have a look and see how we go with that. Okay, got the radio mated back together with the gasket, just held by 4 bolts at each end just to try it out. But yeah, obviously success, she's working now. I've got it up here in high power, and yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, but that wasn't happening before. So we've got the set back in operation when it's bolted together, and I would have to say that that anybody that had a problem with mating of the set, that's the area that I'd be looking at. Definitely someone hasn't lined the plugs up when they put it back together and screwed it together and crushed it and pushed it or deformed the other frame. So there you go. So as I said before, next step is going up portable and give it a trial on the air. But yeah, still a nice looking radio, and hopefully we'll get it back in operation. But it's a very, very good looking set. Very, very good looking set. Okay, next step, the park. No, just me, mate. Victor Kilo 2, Papa Radio Charlie. It's a little bit cleaner, this frequency, Perrin, over.
Very clean, Alex, but you're 5 and 9. 9, that sounds excellent.
Yeah, look, I'm back up here at the park, mate, and I'm running my usual quarter wave vertical on this particular frequency, and it's a very, very still afternoon here. And look, I'm so pleased that I've sorted the problems out with this radio, and it's operating how it should. So yeah, very, very happy, over.
Yeah, I've just sent you a video. I'm uploading a video of that last over of yours, mate. I think you'll agree it sounds absolutely spot on. You would not, you know how you often pick the Clansman audio a mile away. You wouldn't pick it on that particular setup there, mate. It's actually quite well balanced. Just me, mate. Victor Kilo 2, Papa Radio Charlie. It's a little bit cleaner, this frequency, Perrin, over.
Very clean, Alex, and you're 5 and 9. 59, that sounds excellent.
Yeah, look, I'm back up here at the park, mate, and I'm running my usual quarter wave vertical on this particular frequency, and it's a very, very still afternoon here, and look, I'm so pleased that I've sorted the problems out with this radio, and it's not hard to adjust the voltages and to get them right, that's for sure. The more I work on these things, the more I learn about the power supply. It's the Achilles heel of this radio. Once you get the power supply worked out, the rest of it sort of falls into place, over.
Okay, well, there you have it. All complete and done. Working like an absolute dream. Fantastic. All I've got to do now is just put in the rest of the screws on the front and the back. There's a couple missing there. I've ordered them online, so when they come in, I'll be able to put them in complete. Luckily, I've found a new, a replacement dog bone off another set that was a spare set. So all complete. Absolute perler of a little set. The audio on it is immaculate. It's the best audio on any Clansman I've ever owned. So there you go. Okay, so just a quick summary of what we actually did here. First of all, we purchased a radio that was at a very, very good price because it was a parts-only radio. The reflector meter was missing that we replaced. There was problems with the power supply, 2 transistors, mainly the regulation transistors for the 110 and the 3 volts. There was a bit of an adjustment issue on the 110 volt supply side to get it to operate properly. Had a little bit of a drift when you first hit the PTT. But thanks to Mark down in Wagga, VK2PRC, he was able to put me straight on a small adjustment to the 110 volt supply that definitely cured the slight drift when you first loaded up the radio, when you pushed the PTT. So there you go. Thank you very much, Mark. And of course there was Perrin down in Victoria that took the call for me and made the recordings to prove how good the audio was and the problem had gone away. Thank you, Perrin. And of course, I must point out the biggest problem that we had was the crush problem. So they put the radio together with the 2 halves, not lined up the D plugs, and simply tightened up all of the Allen's head screws and crushed the frame of the radio inside. And that was probably the biggest problem that we had. So yeah, that was fixed up as well. But there you go, all fixed up, added to the collection. So I've got myself a 320L in perfect condition from 1976, 1977, operating brilliantly, and I'll definitely be on the air a lot with this radio. So hope to catch us all on the air. This is Victor Kilo 2, Papa Radio Charlie, signing off on this little restoration job, 73.